Hello, everyone. This is Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm excited to have with us today Kelly Park. And what Kelly is basically doing is she is a relentless organizer and believes very firmly in the financial technologies that are available to us as being key to the organization's success when operating an accounting and bookkeeping service. And one of the things that she's an ardent devotee of is QuickBooks Online, and she is passionate about introducing QuickBooks Online to basically accountants and their clients. And one of the things that really excites me is I've run into Kelly at a variety of conferences. I've seen her up in Canada, I've seen her in San Jose, and it's just always a pleasant treat to run into Kelly simply because she's got an amazing personality and an obvious passion for the accounting profession. Now, one of the things that's very important is Kelly is a proud member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. And so she's got a lot of influence there. She is basically a certified professional bookkeeper. She is a QBO Advanced Pro certified advisor, and she's a HubDoc Advanced partner as well. She works with Receipt Bank and is certified with that, as well as WagePoint, Pluto, and Practice Ignition. And so she's got a lot of credentials there. I forgot to mention 17 Hats partner. So Kelly is basically what she would refer to as certifiable. So we're not going to commit her just yet, but she is certifiable. So with all of that as an introduction, as a pleasant let's say bio, I'm happy to say that today she'll be presenting to us on optimizing your customers' lives. And I think this presentation is going to be perfect for all of us. So Kelly, with this introduction of all of these things, why don't I just turn the time over to you and let's get this started.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
So with regards to this presentation, I'd like to know what led you to create this presentation of optimizing your customers' lives?
Well, actually, this was some content that Intuit had asked me to develop, and I was like hesitating. I'm like, okay, this is out of the range of some of the presentations that I do. When I started building out this presentation, I totally gigged out on it because it was like one of these presentations that grew, and it's pretty much my favorite content to deliver now.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so the backstory on optimizing your customers' lives is, or the big benefit on optimizing your customers' lives is that you're actually optimizing your life because you're optimizing your relationship with them. You're optimizing how you're collaborating with them.
Very, very true. If they're not dramatic, if they're not dealing with drama, it's not going to spill over to you. So that makes sense.
Yeah, no. So this has been great for me to build out this content for sure.
Good. Well, what I'm going to do is let you run with this, and as we go, I'm just going to kind of interact with you. So feel free to kind of take the reins with this, and let's see where it takes us.
Okay, great. Yeah. So thank you, Roger. You've already introduced me, and it was nice, so nice to connect up with you when I see you at conferences as well. Just almost losing my voice there. I'm coming off QuickBooks Connect Toronto as of yesterday. So if I lose my voice here, I was delivering quite a bit of content there too.
It's either delivering content or partying. I don't know which, but I'm going to go with delivering content.
I was delivering content during the day and collaborating on dance floors with my buddies in the evenings. Yeah, it was a great conference. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk up the Connect conferences, but they are fantastic. And of course, the IPBC conference here in Canada, the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers, that's another great one. And I saw you there not too long ago. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to start. Most of this relates to cloud accounting because that is a super collaborative space. You don't have your customer coming to you with a whole pile of paper, and then you drop it off on your bookkeeper's desk or at the accountant's desk or whoever's going to work with it. You need to rely on your customers to somehow get the documentation to you, to read the reports that you send to them, to collaborate in a meaningful way with you, because they're not just going to show up at your office on the 15th of the month now. So you really got to start to lay some groundwork for them of how things are going to get done and how you're going to communicate about it and how you're going to share documents. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, it's basically setting the expectations so that they understand what the relationship is going to look like moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all this hype about real-time data is true. My customers' books are in real time, and they're in real time because we have set all of the expectations of what and how and when I need them to collaborate with me.
Well,
And so,
if you do the onboarding process correctly, you're going to not only establish what those expectations are for you and for them, but then I think they have an idea of what it is that they can be using in their basically suite of information from you to be making more intelligent business decisions.
yeah, absolutely. And so when I was presenting at Connect a couple of days ago, somebody asked me, I was doing a presentation, I did 3 presentations on workflow, and they were wondering what the number one most beneficial workflow, if they could only pick one to start with, what was it going to be? And it was going to be onboarding.
That makes sense. I completely agree, actually.
Yeah, work second, onboarding first, for sure. That's truly how I feel about it. So a lot of this has to do with the onboarding process. But of course, customers fall off the wagon every once in a while. So I hate when and then I'm just about to use the word hate, which shouldn't be using the word hate. I get a little riled up when I'm in the Facebook groups and I see people saying their customers are stupid, or their customers aren't getting stuff to them, or their customers aren't doing this, customers aren't doing that. Yeah, well, if you saw my marketing, I have so much I should be doing in terms of my marketing materials, but I'm not. But I know I should be. So I'm sure the guy that runs the back end of my marketing stuff is going, she's so stupid and she never gets anything to me. And how does she think I'm going to get it done? So I hate that kind of conversation. What I really like is, how can we make it easier for the customer? How can we make it comfortable for them? And then how can we remind them without us having to do it? How can we automate that? How can we template that? Mm-hmm. And if we start to do that, you'll have a much better relationship with your customers. So you're optimizing their lives by telling them the easiest way to get stuff done. And you're optimizing your relationship with them because they're more likely to respond.
Well, they don't know how to be organized in this area of their business, and what you're doing, you're bringing order to that chaos.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about, the marketing thing. I sometimes need somebody to nag me around that stuff in a nice way, and if they were to send me templated auto nagging emails, that would be fine too. So anyways, we'll get that in a minute. So why don't I just start? So the number one thing that I want to say is that you've got to make it easy so that it gets done. It's one of my favorite sayings. And so we've talked a little bit about this already, that the cloud accounting is fantastic for real-time data, but only if you can make that actionable, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to set ourselves up for success with our customers. We need to develop processes for them. We need to communicate those processes to them, and we're going to talk about that. If you get this right and rocking, you're making your customer lives better by streamlining your shared work. And I can't emphasize that enough. This is all about shared work. It's no longer they bring something to you, you get it done, and then a month after their month end is done, you might send some reports to them that they might read. That's not the game anymore. Correct. What you want to do is get this stuff to them in real time. I would think one of the number one things that's going to happen is cash flow, because the data is in real time. It's also decision making. It's more streamlined. So they have times to do the things that they love, whether it's doing nothing or whether it's working more. I always get lost if it's in the business or on the business. You know what I mean?
You want to work on it, but you're definitely day-to-day working in it.
Thank you. Right. So takeaway number one, make it easy so it gets done. I can't say this enough.
Yeah, you want to chunk it down to the simplest processes to make sure that they get it done.
Absolutely. Right? How can you expect them to do it for you if you don't make it easy, right? So one of the number one things that I do is client-facing collateral. They get quite a bit of collateral from me. And it's key. It's key for branding. It's key for accountability. It's key for setting expectations. So it's, messaging and collateral isn't all just about marketing. It's about getting your message across on how to work with you as well. And one of the big things that I use is templated communications. Templated communications make sure that your message is consistent, and then you need to make it clear and concise from there. But a consistent message means they know what to expect from you, and your use of language, it becomes a little bit like muscle memory for them. If you say this, they know they need to react to that. Did that make sense?
Very much so. One of the things that I think is important about the consistency is if you're saying the same thing to all of your clients, you're not confused as to what you told to which one. So
yeah.
Consistency helps you with your own workflow.
Absolutely. It's so important that I make a big fat typeface out of it. You can see that, right? The slides are on real time, are they? And yes, I was yelling hashtag sorry, not sorry, but it is so important. So messaging and collateral. Emails are the first one that I would template. Never create an email twice. It's a time suck, and we've already talked about consistency. And the number one way to get around those things is to template it somehow. Gmail and Outlook, I'm also going to talk a little bit about how to make this actionable. Gmail and Outlook have basic abilities. So in Gmail, it's canned responses, it's called. I'm not going to get into how you do it. I'm just saying you can. So you can go ahead and Google how to use Google Mail. And you can get canned responses in there, which you can just use. They call them canned responses, but essentially you can just go ahead and use it and send the same email consistently. But the base programs, Gmail and Outlook, they're not going to get you very far. They're not robust. So you can add on applications for that. Or a lot of the CRMs and a lot of the practice management programs have this ability. So whether you're using, I use 17 Hats for my practice management. It's got a very robust email side of it. Pack has templated emails. Most of them have templated emails, but those would be the two that come top of mind right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, email signatures. Email signatures are a great call to action. And so if you want them to do something and you just want them to click on a link, you can just literally create an email signature email that you send, or you can create a number of email signatures that are a bit of a call to action as well. So I really believe in email signatures. Get your message across, tell them how you want them to get a hold of them, put in a privacy statement if that matters to you, especially for you tax types, should have some sort of privacy statement in it. If you want them to call you, did you actually plan that, Roger?
I had no idea that was going to happen, so it's perfect.
That couldn't have been better, right? If you want them to phone you, for crying out loud, put your phone number in the email template or in your signature. How many times have you seen that? Could you give me a call? Yeah, you let me know how to call you. Right? Doesn't that make you crazy? Put it in there.
The thing I like about this is the fact that you're stressing the idea of having templates. There's so often these similar emails that we're sending to one another, and when you're wasting time rewriting the same thing over and over again, I like the simplicity of actually taking and doing the templates. And you're right about signatures. I think sometimes people just miss out or miss the obvious, and it's nice to just have a canned signature, which you can auto program so that every time you create an email, it's just sitting there. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do to simplify this process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm big. I love my scheduler. I use Acuity for scheduling. I love it. There's tons of them. There's Calendly. I don't know. Pick one. There's a link in some of my emails. Not all of them, because I have different email signatures. But if you want them to do that, then put a link in there to your whatever, your privacy statement, boundaries about I'll return emails between 9 and 5 within 24 hours. Pick something that matters most to you. That's the easiest thing you can do. Messaging and collateral. I insist that my customers communicate with me if they want an action done. If they want to make something actionable, they have to communicate with me through email. But it doesn't have to be email. Maybe you want to set up a Slack channel with them. And I'm not going to go down the Slack rabbit hole, Maybe you want them to text with you. Well, then there's text to email programs. Whatever it is you want to do, if it needs to be actionable, you got to find a way, but you need to make it clear of what, when, how, and why they can communicate with you, and put that in your messaging and collateral.
One of the things that I'd like to do myself is if somebody calls, I respond in kind. So if they called me, I call them. If they email, I email. If they text, they text. But to your point, what you want to do is have a defined way for your clients to understand which is the best way to reach you. So for example, if an email is, I'll get back with you in 24 hours, but a phone call, I need to get back with you in an hour, that's understood. And so they know if it's an emergency, they don't email you, they call you.
Yeah, sure. And have boundary setting or set expectations in your voicemail message too.
Yeah, exactly.
I only answer my phone calls 3 times a day, whatever the case may be. Pick what your boundaries are and then communicate them to your customers. Completely, absolutely, undeniably clear so that they know how to get a hold of you and when they can do it.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Mutual respect is curated. You got to work on it. It's not magic. You got to build these respectful relationships. This comes back to messaging and collateral in a lot of ways. Contract templates. So you set expectations and accountability. So this comes back to the topic of engagements. It also comes back to the topic of reporting. So if we're at a year end, or we are sending out, in Canada, we have a VAT tax, a user tax. So we have something called HST, very similar to your sales tax. And so we have to, get the books ready and get them ready to file the sales tax. So then do you send out something where the customer approves it through a contract and signs it and say, yeah, this all looks good to me, go ahead and file? That's a great example. Accountant access to applications. I cannot I cannot emphasize this new one enough, because these are cloud-based programs and we can willy-nilly hand off access to people. If I am sending a file over to an accountant at year end, or if they're going to review the files, I actually get application contracts signed so that the customer knows what applications I'm allowing access for somebody outside of my company to use. And I think that's a really important one now, because like I said, we can kind of willy-nilly hand off, especially if we're the administrator of their account programs, whether it's their document management, whether it's their payables program, whether it's QBO or Xero or Sage, whatever the program is. Yeah. So that's a big one for me.
Yeah, it's just basically boiling down to that word that everyone's so familiar with, which is transparency.
Yep. I actually have a contingency contract set up too. If something were to happen to me, there is somebody who takes over instantly my account base, my customer base. Well, they had to sign a contract allowing that, and then all of the fallout and details that would happen to that. That maybe there would be a delay or whatever the case may be, and that they had to cooperate. Anyways, it had that whole facing statement on what to do if I used to say if I got hit by a bus. Now I say when I win the lottery. I'm just going to go with the happy side of things.
Win the lottery then.
Yeah, win the lottery, man. Questionnaires. This is how you get the key information about your customers. So again, in the beginning, in the engagement process, this is how you're going to know what their payroll looks like. This is how you're going to know what their business looks like. This is how you're going to know what their bank's accounts. I have one that they fill out, and part of that is they have to list the bank accounts with the last 4 digits and the credit cards, all the reconciliation accounts essentially that they know about. I mean, we're going to reconcile any sales clearing accounts, but this is what they need to give to us. But I also use questionnaires as customer workflows. I'm going to show you a super simple, this is a super simple one because I don't want to take anybody down a rabbit hole. But this is what a customer workflow could look like. Actually, let's go to this one. No, okay, that was a swing and a miss. This you can turn into yeah, I know. I use questionnaires for it, and then I don't have the questionnaire open. So you can turn this into a clickable PDF or put this into a questionnaire, like a Google form. Let's say you put it into a Google form and they actually check it off. And as they're checking it off, you can see what they've done, what's ready for you. I try to make it time sensitive so they know when they can do it, when it has to be done. Let's not just make them guess when it needs to be done. Let's tell them what needs to be done. And that also includes, let's make sure that if in here it says, if they haven't heard from me by a certain day, they need to check back with me. Hey, you get my work done?
Yep.
Or did you get my work done and forget? Or did the email go astray? What happened? I make them accountable for what needs to happen as well. Because maybe I'm going to goof up. Maybe a team member is going to goof up, whatever the case may be. Include them in the process. And then, see right there, for us, again, I said it was HST. HST filing report received.
Yep.
Email me if it hasn't been. It's a two-way street. And then it tells them what else is going to happen in that. So that's kind of what their workflow looks like.
One of the things I like about that is the sequential nature of it, but also I like how you were explaining that it's a collaborative thing and you're engaging and involving them. You're not giving them an out. You're not letting them use you as a scapegoat either. So this is really good. I like how you're actually collaborating through that process and each of you have access to the same form.
Okay, yeah, great. Thank you. You know what? I wanted to share this with you earlier. This is about collaborating and communicating. And so this is a document that you really could create. You can see there's nothing complicated. You could create a document like this fairly quickly so that you have a statement of how people can communicate with you and when they're going to get a hold of you. And as I like to say, there's no such thing as an accounting emergency. Anyways, I like to use questionnaires as customer workflows because they can check through them and you can see where they're at.
Yeah, so the questionnaires, one of the things I like about it is they're very effective in the sales side of it, where you're learning about the client and you're going to prepare your offer and what it is you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So the questionnaire is good at that level. And then once they've agreed to the services, you have the engagement checklist as to, okay, here's the work that I'm going to be performing for you. But I like now how you've taken that a step further and you've made it part of the onboarding process and the workflow process. So it's basically one building upon the other, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is what this is an onboarding one. This is let's get ready for our first meeting. And this is, you know, they have to fill this kind of information in. This is all the raw stuff that we absolutely have to know, right?
Yeah.
But then there's questions about, I like to know what kind of customer I'm looking at. So do they have a mission statement or core set of values? That doesn't sound like a bookkeeping question, but it tells you pretty much if they're in line with your way of thinking, if they have one. Biggest successes, biggest challenges. What are you looking for in a bookkeeper or a tax professional? If price is the first thing or the only thing, well, then maybe you're done. So this is back to the onboarding, and we're out of order, but the questionnaires are a great way of gathering. So for me, I'm only taking I'm not really taking on any bookkeeping customers, let's face it. But if I were, they would have to be, I'm full. They would have to be cloud-based. So, you know, but whatever it is that your ideal customer looks like, if you can build out something like this, you're pretty quickly going to know whether they're a fit for you. And then let's say you don't do inventory, but they need a heavy inventory. Then we're back into what that looks like.
Yeah, so just to kind of go back to what I was sharing earlier, the questionnaire that exists in the sales process would help you actually screen a lot of that because you're essentially determining this is an ideal customer for me. But the thing that I'd like to establish is those questions that you were saying, they're not really bookkeeping or accounting related. That may be true, but I feel that when you look at the fact that your lifetime value or relationship with your client is going to be many, many years, the average being 7 years, you're going into this with the intent of, I genuinely want to get to know about you. And
right.
Showing that interest beyond just, I want to do your books, all of a sudden the business owner starts to feel appreciated and interested, and you're interested in them. And that genuine, sincere interest, I think helps them get more excited about having chosen you to have you do the services. And the biggest part of this whole thing is when you're asking those questions, I really think you're doing something that they may not have expected, and they're pleased to talk about themselves. Everybody likes to talk about themselves, so they're going to answer these questions. They want you to know about them.
Yeah, so you're already optimizing their lives a little bit. You're getting them think about their business, and you're getting them to tell you about it. It starts that collaborative relationship off right from the start.
Yeah, they see you as actually caring.
Yeah, so I'm going to put a video within the webinar. And so this is what I mean by a questionnaire. So this is a Google form. Like I said, this is a super simple workflow for a customer. But, and we'll play that again because it's a pretty quick 15 seconds. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's a Google form. And if you make it so that they can resubmit answers, they can check stuff off as they've done it. So you know where they are and they know where they are.
Yep.
Yeah, so big difference. Automate what you can. I call this auto magical nagging. So I have a first of the month email that goes out to my customers. It's a call to action email. You know, welcome to a shiny new month, Sherry. You need to have your documents, you know, in HubDoc Receipt Bank by the 5th of the month. By the 5th of the month. You don't just say, hey, you got to have your stuff in. You got to say what it is that maybe you need from them. Mm-hmm. I have restaurant customers. They need to have their daily sales done. So I'm making sure that they're reminded that they're having their daily sales done. I send out birthday salutations. My customers know I use an email program. They still send me back an email thanking me. That's so nice that you remembered my birthday. But they forget in the moment when I send the birthday. Reports. I use custom reports that are automatically emailed out. So I'm going to come back to the restaurant customer. They're always a great example because there's so much that goes on in the restaurant business, and there's so much tied to cash flow, and there's so much reporting. So daily sales. I have a report that goes out to my customers on Monday mornings telling them what their daily sales were from the previous week. That way they can look at it. It lands in their inbox and they can look at that report. They can always go customized reports. I've taught my customers how to use customized reports, and we'll come back to that if we have time. But if it lands in their inbox and they're like, right, I need to see that all of my daily sales went in, or I need to see that my daily sales weren't duplicated. They also get a sales clearing one so that they know what hit the bank versus what the sales showed, so they know what's going to do to shareholders, for example. So QBO custom reports are a great way to automate emails. MailChimp, of course, is a great way to automate emails. My program, 17 Hats, super robust. I can automate a ton of stuff, questionnaires, contracts, emails, anyways, and then it follows a pattern. But we don't need to get caught in the shiny app, right?
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel, woo! In my case, given that I live in the country, there could be one any minute gnawing at my window. Okay, so create a customer handbook. PDFs of key needs to know. It doesn't have to be complicated. I've already shown you what the expectation one is. This is how we communicate here. But what I'd like to do is just take, so I use mine for best practices. Their workflows are in there, educations, pages, boundaries, engagement, and engagement summary. Oh, I meant to do this. We're going to take 2 seconds to flip through this. This is my customer handbook. They get a hard copy of it if they want it. They get a PDF version of it. Nice. Whatever I need, whatever wagon they fall off, I can send them just a page. If they start not having compliant books, and when I'm doing this, I'm pointing at the handbook. If they don't have compliant books, they get something about what compliant books mean, right? I don't know anything about writing code. So if somebody said, well, you didn't write the code correctly, give them a handbook that give them an idea of what compliant books are. They may not know that they can't buy things personally from their business account. So set some expectations, all kinds of stuff in there. What is cloud accounting? I'm not going to commonly used accounting terms. How to prepare an income statement. This is actually about the importance of statements too. These are links through different places that tell them what an income statement is versus what a balance sheet is, what a cash flow statement is, why AR matters, why AP. This is our engagement best practices. This is their workflow. So this can actually be pulled out, turned into a clickable PDF. And this is what I was saying, that it's all laid out in terms of timing, and it's laid out in phases. They don't have to chunk off everything. This is when it's going to happen, right? This is my page on how we're gonna talk and how we're gonna share, how we're gonna communicate. These are tutorials. If my clients, their bank feed breaks and I'm not around, I want to empower them. I don't want to have them dependent on me, because how the heck am I going to take the afternoon off? I want to empower them to know how to do things. They're not going anywhere just because they know how to connect the bank feed. They're going to still be my customer. Client letters, just things to help them. And then a document on what a basic engagement looks like. Takeaway number 3, I already said it: educate, empower, automate. Oh, autonomize. Oops, let's go back to that. Educate, empower, autonomize. Reporting. So I'm going to go over this one fairly quickly, but essentially building out how do you make it useful and how you make it actionable for them. Customized reports. I talked to this topic fairly quickly, but customized reports are killer, and showing them how to access them is fantastic, because they can get them whenever they want, not whenever you can send them. I break them out on the things that they need to know. So it's not just a P&L by month as customized. It's a sales clearing, as I mentioned, that's customized. Or maybe they have a lot of payables. It's a payable report that's very detailed, whatever the case may be. And create a cheat sheet so that they know what these reports mean. Take the time. A lot of this is the onboarding. This is the upfront part on telling what to look for, how to make sense of them, and how to make them actionable for your company. And then, of course, set up meetings to discuss them and set the expectation that they have to read them. And if they don't understand them, ask you about them. So we've already talked about this. Collaboration. We talked a little bit about this because I showed you the handbook already. So, you know, some of these things are just follow up to that. So tell them about how you're going to communicate and share. I really believe it's important. Obviously, if I'm going to mention it again and again and probably again. Customer workflows. For anybody who's wondering, Client Hub. Client Hub is a fantastic one, but you have no right to get upset with them for not getting done what you didn't tell them to do. Big, big, important piece of it. Don't assume that they know what to do. And so this is the same one that I said earlier. I say it again because I know I'm saying there's 3 takeaways. I want there to be one of these takeaways is twice.
Okay.
Yep. Boundary setting. So I think we're running close on time, are we?
Oh, we're doing perfectly fine. We're great.
Oh, we're good? Okay, because this one means a lot to me. Boundary setting is so important because this is where the sense of respect comes in. If you have let your customers run ragged over you and call you whenever they want and make their lack of planning your emergency, the respect level is starting to do this. If you haven't told them what your boundaries are and you're making them decide what your boundaries are, well, you're letting the inmates run the asylum.
So this is one of the things that I'm also passionate about. The one thing that I regularly experience with a lot of our clients and the students that we work with is as they're working with their clients, these boundaries are not either clearly defined or they're abused. And what happens is that peer-to-peer relationship where you're the owner of a business, they're an owner of a business,
right?
You're peers, but all of a sudden what happens is they start seeing you as a subordinate or an employee, and they start treating you as such, and somehow you've got to quickly rectify that. Otherwise, they think they control your day. Hey, I didn't see you were in the office today, or you didn't return my phone call, or you didn't. All of a sudden, it's like, excuse me, you're talking to me not as a peer. It appears to me that you're talking to me as a subordinate. Well, we've got to make sure those boundaries are clearly defined so that they understand they're paying for a service. They didn't buy your time. They didn't buy anything other than you're delivering a quality service in behalf of what it is you're providing. So I love this topic. This is where a lot of people get, because they over deliver, and sometimes they get sucked into appeasing a customer, and they get sucked into the point where all of a sudden the customer is dictating their workflow and their day. So this is beautiful.
Yeah, well, and you know what? It's a slippery slope. We'll all, every one of us, you give us an inch and we're just going to keep pushing. The app partners are the perfect example. We have these fantastic apps, but we keep pushing the, oh, that is fantastic. Thank you. But you didn't do this, right? Or whatever. Well, I didn't say I was going to do that. Mm-hmm. So setting boundaries is so important. And then it helps rein it in, So I have customers who text me occasionally, and then they'll text a couple of times, and then they're like, oh, yeah, right. She's not going to answer my text unless I'm late for a meeting or whatever that case may be. But generally texting is for, my girlfriend's calling me out for a glass of wine. Texting is not for customers hoping I'm going to get something done for them.
Yeah, I don't do business via text either. I'll do a quick little communication just to be in contact, but I'm not going to dictate a long text as a way of corresponding. So I agree with you there.
No, but some people love that.
They do. I have one client that wants to do that, and I respectfully default to another way because I don't need these long dissertations in my text. Yeah,
actually, I didn't mean the clients. What I meant, some firms like that. Some firms think that this is a great way to work. So have at it. Oh, I'm not saying that their boundaries are the same as my boundaries. Well, really what I want to talk about boundaries is more around when they can get a hold of you, but how is important. So I learned that lesson this week when I was doing my session on this. This is a lot of the stuff that I covered in it. And they're like, well, no, our client base is farmers. We need to be able to text with them, but that's not working for us. And I'm like, well, get a text email then. There's apps for that. So if it matters that much to your ideal client that they are on their tractor in the field and can just ham out a note real quick to you, but you need to make it actionable. I'm not saying it's not okay to do something that's good for your customer too. This is about optimizing your customers' lives. Not setting boundaries does not optimize your customers' lives in any way at all. So if your customer base needs to be able to text you, figure out a way to make that work and then set the boundaries on when they can text you. My customers can email me all night long if they want to. They A, know I'm not going to reply, and B, my phone automatically goes silent. So I have a whole time frame that I won't even hear it. So that's the second step. Don't just tell your customers what to do. Live it. Don't then just say, okay, just this one time, right? Because if the CRA, we have Canada Revenue Service, the IRS froze their bank accounts. They knew that they were going to freeze their bank accounts weeks ago, right? Uh-huh. There's no accounting emergencies. So all I'm saying, and I don't do a lot of payroll. I know somebody will say, well, payroll's a big emergency. You would know. Anyways, I'm not here to go down that rabbit hole. But they won't know what your boundaries are if you don't tell them. So we're back to that. Communicate it to them.
So one of the things that I love about what you're sharing here isn't the how, it's the need to, because each firm is going to determine how to best communicate with their clients and what those boundaries may look like. You're not saying what the boundaries ought to be. You're just stressing the importance of having them. So that's excellent.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's some bookkeepers out there that are part-time and they're working in the evenings. Their boundary may be, don't email me during the day or think I'm going to email you back during the day. I work from 6 till 11 o'clock in the evening. Go ahead and do it to your heart's delight. Call me, email me. I'm not saying that the rules have to be what my boundaries are.
Yes,
I'm saying you need to define what those boundaries are. I actually have a customer that we do a lot of work early in the mornings. I have a separate set of boundaries for him because he's a morning person. I'm a morning person. We can get a bunch of stuff done, especially here in Canada where it's dark as heck in the mornings and I can't get out for my run right now. I'd rather knock some work off between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning with him and go out when it's a little lighter out. Yeah. So you can have, they don't have to be carved in stone for, say, all of your clients. Let's say you have a super pushy client. Well, rein them in as tight as you can, right?
Yeah.
But set the boundaries and then tell them, I'm pointing at my screen again. That's what this is. Tell them, so I'm pointing at what you're seeing. Tell them, don't make them guess, don't make them set their own rules. Boy, I got harping, didn't I?
Yes, and I'm harping on our soapboxes.
Yeah, this is a big one for me. You know what? I'm not sure I'm sure you're going to take some of parts of this out. Please don't be a doormat. I see so many bookkeepers and accountants who are doormats. Don't be a doormat. Would that sum it up?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Oh, we can't. These are just some suggestions, right? I time block. Maybe you don't time block. But how long until they can reply? What's the chain of contact? This is a big one. If you have team members, if you have a set of eyes on the books, is the customer allowed to go over their head for the day-to-day stuff? That's a big one. Can they come to the owner of the firm if their bank accounts? I don't know. Pick something. I can't come up with some. You know what I mean, right?
Yep, I do. Well, the basic thing here is if they have an assigned bookkeeper accountant that they're actually supposed to be working with, to jump over them within the firm and go to someone else just because they didn't answer their phone call and they had to leave a message, for example, there's got to be a protocol to say, well, do you realize calling me, I don't have the answer. That person actually does, and you just need to wait a minute.
Yeah, right? So time frame, chain of contact, and do you use a scheduler? I've loved my scheduler, so lots of people don't, though. Let them know what's working for you. You want to set up more than a quick phone call with me, use a scheduler, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Stick to the boundaries. Don't deviate. We've already talked about this.
The one thing I'd just like to throw in here as you're wrapping it up is I would say that this is very appropriate also with friends and family. One of the things that I know is there's a lot of people that actually have firms where they work at home, and because of that, they're interrupted by their children or their spouses. So you start setting boundaries there that during these hours I'm working, leave me alone, respect that. And then conversely, it's the same with friends. It's the same with the clients. And so I think this whole principle here is applicable in each of those areas of our life. So very good.
100%. I've been renovating. I had to tell my contractors who are renovating my cabin over there that they don't come in here. This is my she shed office.
Yeah.
Tell your customers they need to set boundaries too. This is where you're optimizing your customers' lives. If you're teaching them that you have boundaries, the next level is to teach them have some too. Let's make it trickle down.
Well said.
We share. Tell them how you're going to share. Now we're running out of time, aren't we?
No, you're doing fine.
Okay.
This is good.
We share, and we share. So make it easy for them to share. What do they need to get to you? When do they need to get it to you? And how are they going to get it to you? Secure document portal, QBOA. If you're a smaller firm and you don't want to pay for one of the share file or whatever, QBOA, secure shared document. Share file, whatever. We don't need to go over them. Utilize document management apps. Bookmark them for your customers on their browsers so that they can get to them, and teach them how to use the app. I'm not going to go down the whole rabbit hole of teaching your customers. Well, I am briefly going to go down the rabbit hole. Teach your customers to use the applications. If they're not comfortable using them, they're not going to use them. Don't make that they have to learn them. Take some upfront stuff. We're back to onboarding. Take some upfront time and explain it to them. How to use not just what their tech stack is, but why it's important to them, how it's going to make their day-to-day lives easier, and make sure they're confident in it. Get out the pom-poms, as I like to say. So you and I talked about this already. Onboarding process. I can't even start to talk about optimizing Chrome, but just Google optimizing Chrome. I'm hoping I'll come up. Get your pom-poms out. If you don't love it, if you don't believe in it, why would they?
Yep.
So you don't need to recreate any of this stuff. I already showed you that I have links in my handbook. I just totally stole the content from the app partners and from Intuit. Don't rewrite content unless you love doing videos. And if you love doing videos, have at it. But if you don't have time or inclination, just get the great material that's already out there and pop that into your collateral.
Exactly.
So we are coming to the end. It does seem pushy, or maybe it's arbitrary, or maybe you feel that they're not going to comply or that they're going to push back. But this is how we do it here. This is the thought that you should have. Your customer should consider you to be bossy nice. You're not their best friend. You're their bookkeeping bestie, not their wine drinking bestie. Oh, am I talking about wine again?
Somehow that slipped in again.
Yeah. So when you set boundaries, establish expectations, develop processes, you're actually empowering your customer. You're making it easy for them to communicate, collaborate, and share with you. You're freeing up their time to do what they love because they know what they have to do for you and how they get to do it. And you empower them to use the business data you have produced together to grow and prosper and succeed. You have optimized their lives. And then we're done.
That is perfect. You know, one of the things that I loved about this presentation is the fact that you were so clear on the workflow. One of the things that I think is maybe struggling in a lot of the businesses out there is, as an accounting firm runs its company, the opportunity, especially from profit, exists in their workflow. The more efficient they are, the more profitable they'll be. And so that's what you're addressing here, is just having that workflow to ensure that everything's actually going well. So this is perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not being a meanie head by setting boundaries and telling them how to do things. You're doing them big favors.
So one of the things that I'd like to do as part of this webinar is for everyone that's listening, we're going to actually make an offer and give everyone a free ebook copy of the book In the Black. It's something that I think is appropriate to coincide with what we've been discussing today about workflow and boundaries. And In the Black actually addresses this and so much more. So for those of you who have listened, we're going to go ahead and put together here a place for you to go and request your own free copy of the book In the Black. But Kelly, real quickly, is there anything that you'd like to maybe add or share here to wrap things up?
No, I don't think so.
Perfect. Well, everyone,
I think I talked enough.
No, this is perfect. Kelly, thank you. I really respect the fact that you took the time to do this. I know you're a busy person. You just shared that you just came back last night from the conference. And so again, you've been traveling. I've been traveling. I just look forward to seeing you again. And what we're going to try and do is plan on sharing this so that everyone has a chance to hear what it is that you shared. And I just appreciate you taking the time to pull all this together. And obviously you're quite passionate about it, and that came through in the presentation. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure of mine.
Perfect. Well, everybody take care, and remember this: if it's about accounting, it's universal. So take care.